Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly, Uncensored.
Hello and welcome to Miguel and Holly Uncensored. This is our off-air podcast that we do on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. It drops around noon, but we also stream it live on Facebook, the Miguel and Holly one, the Hits 961, and the Miguel and Holly YouTube channel, which you can go take a look and peruse. Before we get into our weekends and whatnot, there's a celebrity story that I sort of went down a rabbit hole with last night before I went to bed that we didn't get a chance to chat about this morning.
Oh.
Did y'all see all the stuff with Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt's daughter hired her own lawyer to drop Pitt from her last name?
Yeah.
So it was reported that Shiloh has filed legal documents to remove Pitt from her last name amid rumors of a rift between the actor and his children. Shiloh filed the document on May 27th, the day she turned 18. She will now go by Shiloh Jolie instead of Shiloh Jolie-Pitt. Following Shiloh's legal moves, it has been revealed why Angelina, 48, cannot legally talk about the situation. And I was reading some of the legal documents yesterday, and I know in the celebrity world, we've sort of touched on that a little bit, but no one's really dug down and discussed is Brad Pitt crazy? Because the stuff that I was reading last night, I was he does not sound like a great person, but I feel like nobody's talking about that.
Well, we didn't have enough facts to talk about it. And at that time, because keep in mind, this touched off, 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so obviously we would have talked about this then. Before I get into that, though, really quickly, I'm why does she need a lawyer? Because you could just do it. You can change your name.
The courthouse.
You could just go to the, I'm they're she got her own lawyer. I'm she probably didn't need one. But even if she did want one, she can get one. It's weird to me that they're making a big deal about that. And that all of a sudden all this is renewed interest and everything. But I mean, I guess it is. So back to the Brad Pitt thing. When that happened, there wasn't enough information or facts or proof that anybody really had to go on. And so everyone was just making assumptions, and it involved possible violence against kids. And so I think that's why we didn't ever really dive into it, because at the time it was really under lock and key. It was sort of I can think off the top of my head just a handful of celebrity things where it's we touch on it, but we can't get too into the weeds with it because we simply don't know enough. And we did, I think, learn our lesson 15 years ago, just getting into the weeds with our assumptions and opinions, the Lindsay Lohan times and the early Britney Spears times. And then we learned lessons that we're we should probably shut up if we don't really know the facts about this and just talk about in general. So I remember when there was going back to that flight that kicked off the whole thing, right? When he was supposedly or allegedly violent with Angelina and the kids at the time. I think it was the oldest boy, maybe it was Pax. And I remember all this from when we were doing Hollywood at the time on the show. And we had talked about it, but then it's ooh, these are kids. And Angelina's not saying anything about it. She never publicly made a statement about it, probably because there was a lot of legal stuff tied up. And if there's one thing that I know, you really cannot talk about it if things are happening legally, because then it blows your whole entire case.
And they're two A-list names too.
I mean, we're
very
talking
protected.
We're talking the biggest names on the planet at that time when this all happened. And so then after the fact, everything kind of just fell because there wasn't information. There was no information. Nobody was talking to the press. And I think they were big enough stars that they weren't getting as hounded by the paparazzi as some stars do. I think they were so big, they had such big entourages at the time that the paparazzi simply couldn't. They were better protected than some.
Because and some celebrities have mentioned this too, is that if you truly want to stay hidden, you can.
You absolutely
if you aren't going out to those big restaurants and whenever there's a story, remember what was their name? Kristen Stewart back in the day was caught making out with the director in a car. And it's like,
yeah,
girl, you couldn't get a hotel room. You couldn't go to
Right.
somebody's house. Why are you on
they
one of the
didn't
most
really care to keep it
trafficked
silent.
Hollywood street making out in a car with
Yes,
somebody?
yes.
You want to be seen. And
Right.
so I feel like with Brad and Angelina, it's like if you want that several layers of people to keep people away, that absolutely can make that happen. But I'm curious if this is going to make, because now we didn't have social media like it was back then, where
Right,
people
it's
were making
different now.
videos and stuff. So I'm curious so I'm curious if we are going to look at Brad Pitt differently as this starts to get circulated more and more. Because I didn't see like a whole lot of it this weekend. I saw just a little bit last night on
Mhm.
TikTok, and I was like, oh, I feel like this is starting to like bubble to the surface as these details are starting to be made public. That I mean, the stuff that just a little bit that I read last night, just how nasty Brad Pitt.
It seems like he had a problem with alcohol, but we
Yes.
don't even know that.
Are we
like,
canceling Brad Pitt?
Right.
well, okay, let me back up and say this. What's Brad Pitt doing nowadays?
He still has a movie. Like I know him
Oh.
and George Clooney have a movie coming out that
Do
someone,
they?
they were like, oh, they're teaming up again. And I'm like, ooh,
I
this
mean, they
is-
might not be now because I
Yeah.
was like, there's a reason that we have not seen a lot of Brad Pitt lately. Now, I also know that
agree.
he and Angelina are still duking it out, not only about like the kid stuff, which maybe that got settled, but there was like a winery or
I remember that.
something.
Yeah.
Remember, there was like a
Mhm.
lot of different tentacles of that legal battle.
Like,
and
one of them-
still might be open.
Yeah, because like one of them sold the winery from underneath the other
Yes.
person and they didn't know. And then like that became a whole nother legal mess.
Yes.
Like, it's just when you have people with that much money and it's this messy.
It's so
and-
messy. It's so messy.
Right. And it's hard to describe because I feel like Gen Z, they missed out on like us having these huge mega stars where
For sure.
like, like when you listen to our on-air show now and you hear Holly do Trending in the Queen City, it's like today you mentioned that like J-Lo canceled her tour, but then also in the same breath we were talking about, the sports team winning this weekend, and then like there's this new restaurant opening up. So it's like not just celebrity stuff like it used to, because I feel like we as a culture have started to walk away from worshiping these people and just putting them on such a huge pedestal where we would give countless hours of free
Right.
press to them on our shows.
Like, you have no idea. So interesting, just to touch on your point, is we used to have two segments that I was fully in charge of. One
Mhm.
was trending, which would be news leading things like the sports teams and local stuff and world topics. And the other one was fully dedicated to celebrity gossip.
That was
And
it.
it
And this
went by
was
different
gossip too.
names.
This
It was,
wasn't.
oh my God.
Yeah,
it was
this wasn't
such-
like now where we're like, here is a report. This was, girl,
Yeah. Bring it
I
back.
heard.
Bring it back.
But nobody wants to hear it.
I
We
know.
can't bring it back.
According to the studies.
Right.
According to studies, like you would rather hear about like somebody getting a shot in their eyeball, which we talked about that today. Like you would rather hear that than about celebrities, and
Right.
we get
Yeah.
it. So we literally took a segment away. I mean, we called it what, the E-Buzz, Hot in
Mhm.
Hollywood,
Yeah.
whatever. We had different names, but we don't do that segment anymore because no one gives a shit about celebrities or their culture or whatever. Because, and it's interesting because that's probably been the last. How long? 5 years? Less than that?
5 years. So I think it was like right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Is when like when we were in Tampa and we decided to merge Hollywood and trending
Put 'em
together
together.
and make it more a variety of things other than just
Right.
like celebrity gossip.
Right. And so, but there was back when we started. So we started doing morning shows. I joined in 07 and
Mm.
Miguel started in 08 as
Mhm.
the That Guy Kramer show. Back in 08, 09, 2010, you couldn't tell nobody shit. Like you had to. One of the biggest benchmarks of the entire show was this celebrity gossip segment. And I
Mhm.
mean, you had to have it all. Like I was over here knowing everything there was to know about every freaking celebrity. Like somehow my phone, when I just like let my Apple Music play in my car, every now and then it'll trip into some weird fifth dimensional box of I don't know where these songs or this audio is coming from. And it'll be like Lindsay Lohan's dad, Michael, makes a comment about her arrest. It's
Oh my
from like
gosh.
2010. Or it'll be like Nene Leakes thing, or it'll be like Michael Jackson's nanny said some shit. It's crazy.
Didn't we interview Michael Lohan one time?
I believe we did.
I think we did.
I believe we did. I believe we did. I believe we did. This is Lohan Daddy.
Lord.
Yes. So anyway, it was so massive and it was pure speculation, but we
Mm.
really can't do that anymore because people started calling you more on your BS
Right.
and you had to have stats to back it up. So now that they have this, I'm wondering if that's not why we haven't seen a lot of Brad Pitt lately. And it's interesting that you said there's a movie coming out. I hadn't heard nothing about it.
Yeah, it's been low key.
Yeah, maybe because he knew he had to lay a little bit low, you know, and that's what I have heard. I keep an eye on celebrity stuff still, by the way. But what I've seen is anything that Brad Pitt has popped up with. I remember seeing something about a potential, and this is why I'm like, I don't want to put my stamp on it, but like something with struggles with alcoholism, I don't know, and working on that.
Mm.
But I haven't even heard that in a couple of years.
I wonder if obviously celebrity is changing and it's starting to change, but like, I wonder, are we now going to be in a bygone era of having these A-list people? Because I mean, when you look at like how movies are doing, like
Mhm.
even the movie industry is having a hard time because it's like now everything is just so fragmented that it's hard to even get people into a movie theater. And so back in the day, you know, Jennifer Aniston movie, you know, or Scarlett Johansson or whatever, and it was like starring them and it was going to make $80 million that weekend. It's like that is a bygone era where I wonder if the celebrity as we know it is starting to change because we are devaluing and not wanting to prop them up so much by doing a job and getting paid millions of dollars for what they do when everyone else is just trying to like pay rent.
I think yes, and I think it's been on that path for a while. Hence, we took away the Hot in Hollywood segment because there's a couple things. So there's not as many stars anymore. Like
Right.
when you think of a superstar, you only think of the old guard. Like
Right.
there are no new superstars like there were in music or in movies because people have like these one-off hit movies or one-off comedy shows or like whatever. I would argue that you just don't have A-listers the way that you did in the 90s and the early 2000s as we do now. And I think that thing where there's not as many superstars is also pairing with the way that social media started rising in 2012. So in like the 2010s, the way that social media started rising, you started having more everyday small time celebrities, like local celebrities, regional celebrities, what we might consider to be like D-level content creators are taking the YouTubers and people on Instagram are sort of taking over for some of those heavy hitter A-listers, and they're not as many of them because the industry can't support it. And then there are more small growth people, which is why we had to take out Hollywood, because I'm like, but what if the audience doesn't know who I'm talking about when I say Charlie D'Amelio?
Right.
Because you could run across someone who is a stan, and you could run across someone who's like, I've never heard that name before in my life. Same thing with Mr. Beast, which is weird because he's like the #1 YouTuber like of all time at this point, money-wise, views-wise, and half of America probably doesn't even know who he is and is like, what is that, like a video game? Like, what is it?
No, like I didn't know about him until we moved here because I know he's from North Carolina.
North Carolina, yeah.
And so I remember hearing about him, and I mean, but like he sponsors something with our basketball team, the Hornets.
They just put a patch for his company because he also does like candy bars and maybe something else.
And he has a meal with Zaxby's too, which I've had before. It's like a commemorative box. It's Mr. Beast, where
commemorative
it
box.
is. It's this like blue box, and it comes with like three chicken tenders, cheese curds, fries, and then like a Mr. Beast candy bar as well.
Damn.
Why do you know exactly what's in it?
Let me get the Mr. Beast meal.
Why did you just list off like you worked either at Zaxby's or for
girl,
Mr. Beast Corporation?
You sold me on it.
Well, because I ordered it twice.
Okay.
But
well, anyway, you have that.
There's got to be a documentary about Mr. Beast because the only thing I know about this man is that he just gives out a shit ton of money and
Mm.
everyone reposts his stuff. But I want the documentary to come out once he has his eventual downfall. I'm assuming. Maybe he doesn't, right?
Oh no,
But
I
they
hope not.
always do. You know,
I
they always
know.
do.
But his won't be for a while.
Yeah,
I really don't think so.
Money doesn't go out of style ever.
Right.
So
This is true.
but where the fuck do you get $1 million to give to two random strangers? Is
You
it
know
all
what?
scripted? I just want to know.
Well,
Yeah.
that's because he doesn't take any money, like
puts
all
it
the
all back
money
into
that
the
he makes from
videos.
the ads. Yeah,
Mm.
it's just sort of keep building up, and it's like, all right, all the money we made from this viral video, we're gonna take $1 million and then give it to someone or whatever.
Mhm.
But it's just amazing to me how he's been able. Because I think I did watch a little documentary. It's like a short one about his rise on YouTube and like how he
Mhm.
got to be
Yeah.
the biggest person on there. But that just goes to show you how like there is just a huge swath of social media celebrities that like we don't know about in like regular pop culture. But if you talk to someone who like Amy Gordon said that my son loves Mr. Beast and he'd love to meet him, he eats those candy bars all the time. Whereas like I didn't know about him until we moved here to Charlotte, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'd never heard of him before.
Right.
So it's just so fascinating how the dynamics of being a celebrity is changing and how we're not going to have the Jennifer Anistons. I mean, even like look at someone like I could say that like the Stranger Things kids would probably be like the closest of like the younger generation. But even like I
Yes.
feel like if you
Yeah.
asked my mom, like, hey, do you know who Millie Bobby Brown is? She'd probably be like, I don't know them. But if you say Stranger Things, she
Right.
knows the show, but not the actual people. Whereas like back in the 90s, you did not get bigger than the cast of Friends
Right.
or Seinfeld.
Everyone knew who they were. And I think there's oh my God, my brain feels like it's so full of things. So there's all these different reasons why. And I think it's because we have streaming now
Right.
and it's on Netflix. Not everybody has Netflix, but
Right.
back in the 90s, every single person had NBC and you were watching it Thursday nights at 8.
Right.
Like, why I know that, like, right?
Mhm.
I watched Friends and then I stopped watching Friends and I went to college and then like whatever, but I knew that it was on NBC Thursday nights at 8. And so the entire world was doing something communally at the same time. So maybe that's why we had these communal celebrities, like the cast of Friends and even the cast of like things like ER or even people will probably know like Touched by an Angel, which was like a small time, but like everybody freaking knew, okay? And like you had the
Was it
movie
Della
stars.
Reese, I think.
Della Reese,
Yes,
you
honey. Touched by an
see?
Angel. Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.
Can't. But anyway, like everyone had these touchstone moments, but they don't anymore. So like with the rise of social media and with the rise of all of these streaming networks, you've got these splintered stars where if you're watching it, you know that's a big star. But I'm trying to think like there's not that many big names anymore in the movies. I think you're right with Stranger Things, and I would put like Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya
yeah.
up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I think it.
But even then,
Right.
you could probably put Zendaya on the cover of a magazine, and again, half the people are going to be like, "Who is that?"
Right. Right.
Because they're not instantly recognizable. They should to me, you're like, that's Zendaya. Of course, that's Zendaya.
Mhm.
Right.
But you also might not, and it doesn't mean that you're living under a complete rock. It just means you consume different forms of media than other people.
Yeah, because there's so many options.
Right. And even just like I tried to get away from saying this on the radio that like you may have seen this on your TikTok or Instagram, because like I'll be talking about a video that's on my feed and producer Kelvin's feed, then Holly, you'll be like, I have not even come across that. And I'm like, what? The last 5 videos I watched were all about this certain topic. And Holly's like, but mine is about this. But that just goes to show you that we're no longer living in that monolithic culture anymore where we don't have it. I think to me, it's a little sad because there is nothing better than like if, you know, you're
Sharing
elder
a moment.
millennial and like remember a moment like this with Kelly Clarkson and how like everybody was fucking talking about Kelly Clarkson winning American Idol.
Even if you didn't watch American Idol.
Right, you knew it. And then the next morning on the radio, they're playing a moment like this throughout the day, and everyone on the school bus and at school is talking about it. We don't have that anymore.
Right.
That was when America was one.
Yeah.
America really was one back in the day when we all got together and knew who the fuck Kelly Clarkson was.
Right. Now, like, who's won what and where? Like,
there is no one big pop cultural event that we all come together on across generations. And it makes it so that social media, you're finding your niche and you're staying in that bubble. So it's harder to find other things that other people are into because you're just being fed by the machine what they think you want to see. So you'll spend a longer time on their app.
I think Doe Eyes brought up a good point in the comments.
I think we don't view celebrities as celebrities anymore, but more as regular human beings, and we don't like what we see. We aren't as willing to support them because I do. Go ahead, Kelp. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say there's a line of exclusivity, right? Is that the right word? Yeah, a line of exclusivity, like kind of like Beyonce, right? Untouchable. Whereas we as a society have been like, no, be more human. Tell us how you feel. Tell us about your mental health struggles. And then that line, that blurred line of mystery is gone.
Right.
And then you decide if you want to support or not, right?
Well, and I think too that we want to know that our celebrities have the same values as we do. And sometimes when celebrities do speak up, you're like, oh,
that wasn't my values. But does that mean you don't like their art?
I think that's what I think that's where we are and what we're trying to figure out is if you don't agree with someone's values, and if they're not speaking up on issues that are important to you, does that mean that you still buy their concert tickets or go to their movies or watch their TV shows? Because I do feel like that it's okay for celebrities to not always speak on every issue if they don't know it. Because
if they're just trying to entertain as part of their career.
Right. Because I feel
should
like
we expect them to also weigh in on, political and moral values when they're like, I really just wanted to act and put on a good performance for you.
Right, because that's why I always say that, like, not every celebrity needs to, go on the Daily Show and talk about who they're voting for, because, like, I'd rather you be informed. Like, if you're informed and you know what you're talking about, yes, because I'm never one of those people that's like, shut up and play basketball or shut up and sing. Like, you are a voter, and if you have educated yourself and you feel passionate about it, absolutely. But if you don't, and all you want to do is like sing or act and do your art, you shouldn't be obligated to do that as well if that's out of your comfort zone. Because I don't necessarily expect, Susan, who works at Bank of America, to all of a sudden teach me about whatever political issue if she's not into it, So that's why I feel like we shouldn't always look at them to tell us what they're thinking about stuff if they don't think about it.
Right. If they and that's why I'm like, why are we pushing people to share their personal stuff all the time? Like, you can be authentic and not be forced to share your political views if you don't want to, if you really just want to do your job or whatever. If you want to also be an activist, like Miguel said, that's amazing. And you're going to lose people, right? Like, that your popularity as an artist is going to go down because as soon as you speak on something, you're going to lose half the people.
Right.
And so you're like, well, that's fine. I will just keep the people that I keep. And that's fine. But I also don't think that that's like, it shouldn't be a prerequisite for doing a job that it's not required of you. If you're going to act, why did we suddenly make these people be really learned on things that maybe they had no interest in? Like, did you ask your surgeon? Like, I mean, maybe some people want to know what their surgeon believes.
Right.
I want to know, did my surgeon go to medical school and finish, and like, where did he finish in his class, and like, how well does he know my disorder? Not necessarily other views.
Right. I agree. And I think there's two kinds of people, right? People who just immediately think, well, why isn't my favorite person talking about it? How disrespectful, how rude. And to your point, I agree. Like, they don't have to. But the other side of that is, what if the person that you support so much is vocal about other things, but then this one particular thing that you are super passionate about, they're not talking about it? Is that when you're supposed to feel away?
I think it depends on what it is.
What if y'all just aren't passionate about the same things?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it depends. Like, when it comes to obviously like gay issues, that's going to be very important to me. But also too, like, if you are a straight actor that maybe you don't have a lot of gay people in your life and you're like, oh, I support everybody, but you're not on June 1st, doing a happy Pride Month post. Like, I'm not going to fault you for that. But then if I see you turn around and you're like donating to anti-LGBTQ issues, that means that you're actively, trying to take away
Go the other
rights from
way.
me. Right. And so
Right.
that's when I'll have a problem with that. But I don't necessarily need everybody to, be as outspoken as like Adele. If you saw the video this weekend of someone at her concert being like, Pride is stupid or
Pride
whatever.
sucks, I
Pride
think.
sucks.
Mhm.
And she was like, are you a fucking moron? And
Yeah.
she's like, get out of
Yeah.
my show. What are you doing
Which,
here?
and by the way, she wouldn't have even said anything about it unless that person in the audience
Right.
hadn't said something about it. So there, she got pushed and she decided to respond. And if it is something you're passionate about, absolutely. It's so weird to me that we all have to see where the other person lies as to whether or not, like, it's what social media has done is really taken the nuance out of a lot of things. Not some
Mm.
things, like some things you're either this or that. Like there are
Mhm.
some things that are pretty black and white, but for a lot of things there is some nuance there, and all of that can be completely lost on social media. And I think that's part of the problem with quote unquote celebrities too, is that everyone is just looking for a soundbite.
Right.
They don't want to hear you give a, brief but in-depth analysis in 3 minutes when they could have a 10-second clip of you being like, I think it sucks on TikTok. And then that's all that you hear. That's all that you hear. But really, you didn't hear the whole thing. And I think social media has a lot to blame with a lot of the stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah, because there's no verification. I mean, and especially when you look at the amount of people that get their news and stuff from TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
that can be very unverified. And like, I've even now that
Yeah.
I feel like I can finally say that like I get TikTok, because I've been resistant to it just because I don't know. I just don't like sitting on my phone like that, just watching random people. And especially
Doom
when it was
scrolling.
just like dances, yeah, and stuff like that. But now that I feel like my TikTok probably is more aligned
takes a
with
minute.
like, right.
It takes getting to know you.
Well, and then also too, like I used it a lot of times just for work stuff. So like my shit was all over the place, and a lot of
Oh,
it
yeah.
didn't interest me at all because I was looking for trending videos and stuff like that
Right.
that we would use on the show. But now that I use it more so for, things that I'm looking for, I'm like, oh shit, it's been like 15 minutes and I'm still just scrolling, looking at all this stuff. But then I have to like check myself and be like, oh my God, I can't believe they just said that. I'm like, wait a minute. Who is this person and what authority do they have to report on this issue? Let me go Google this real quick.
Do they have the facts?
Right. And
Is the meme I'm reading factually correct?
right.
And there's a lot of people that don't care enough to check it,
Mm.
as long as it aligns with their beliefs, and they're just going to pass it on,
Right.
or get mad about it without even checking if it is correct, or they don't have the online social media literacy skills to be able to figure out if something is real or not.
Yeah.
And that's a
That
big
part.
problem. That's a big
Mhm.
and I'm not like, don't think I'm sitting here being like, oh, people are stupid. If no one taught you how to have accurate media literacy, which would be like an advanced college skill, I would say, unless they've started teaching it to high school kids, but I feel like probably no. Where would you learn that?
Right. And it's super sophisticated that it even trips up us who's
Yes.
in the media.
Poo crave.
Right.
Oh my God, please tell a story quickly. Not even quickly. Side tangent about Kelvin and Pooh Crave.
God, which one? Hold on. Let me look through our group chat. So we follow a Twitter called Pop Crave.
Pop Crave.
They're originated in Miami, by the way.
Mm.
And they're this really great resource for, I would say, more than 90% accurate about entertainment news. And I used it back when I was in Miami for my show. I'm sure you guys did too. It's really good, really to the point.
Well, you can see stuff kind of break. That was what Twitter was always good about, breaking news. And
Yes.
that's a really good, it's pretty verified. Like if you see it from Pop Crave, you're like, I know this to be a reputable source.
Right.
Correct. And so for some reason, some of these things start trending, and that's the problem. Is that there's trolls or there's people that believe it, and then when two of them mix together, they make something go viral and get a shit ton of stuff. So I've sent you guys a few things. Majority has been of a joke, but there has been a time where I'm like, oh, let me send this in, and then I read it after. I'm like, never mind, guys, wait.
You're like, no.
So this is one of the first ones that popped up, and it says,
And you're like, oh, Pop Crave is reporting on this.
Yes.
You're like, Holly, you might want to put this in trending tomorrow morning, or do you want us to post about
Send
it?
it to the group text.
Send it to the group, just to
And
save it.
What's the title?
Ethan Slater and Frankie Grande are revealed to be brothers from a bombshell DNA test results.
So that's Ariana Grande's brother and her current lover.
21,000.
And like, look how similar they look, which we don't even know if there was any editing at all, which they do look similar, but could that have been edited? Yes.
Right.
And so Kelvin's like, oh my God. And then we realize what?
It's fucking fake. It's a parody account.
It's a parody account
Crave.
called Poo Crave.
Poo Crave.
But
Instead
if
of
you
Pop Crave.
don't read it, it looks really similar. And
Yes.
you could easily, the most trained professional could see that and be like, oh shit, we need to get a post together to put this on the Miguel and Holly Instagram so people can talk about it. And then you're like, wait.
You're like, oh shit, I got had by Poo Crave. Damn it. Like, it happens to us. That's why I try so hard, but it plays on your emotions.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's how they do it. Why do you think they're all trying to hook you? Because it all plays on your emotions. If they can get you to feel something to share that, they've won. And when I say they won, I mean they got more money from your attention.
Mm.
And that's how we need to be careful. But anyway, like, aside from that deep warning, there's all this stuff where if you read it, you're like, holy shit. Like, I would say anything that makes you actually sit up and go, holy shit. Wait a minute.
Question it. Question it.
Mhm.
Nothing is ever that crazy. Like, hold on. It might be. And if you have verified with a couple of different resources that it is, go ahead and feel shock and awe about it. Because sometimes every now and then, like a celebrity, like when Matthew Perry died, I gasped. And obviously they usually don't do them about deaths, but sometimes people will get a little premature on a death thing. And it's like, oh, whatever. But like anything that I go, oh, I'm like, wait a minute, wait. I just had a very physical reaction to this news. Let me double check it. And so when the Frankie Grande, Ethan thing, you see that and you're like, what? Oh, wait. Let me check.
Come on, it's coming from the poo.
Yeah, it's poo. It's Poo Crave.
So it's interesting. I just saw that article about Brad Pitt. And I was also listening to a podcast this weekend that was talking about how media, or even like the way that like the major TV networks, they just did their upfronts where they go to advertisers and they're like, hey, here's our fall schedule of TV shows.
All the pitches.
Right. Advertise with us. But they were saying how like all the new slate of shows have like older people at the helm of it because the audience for networks have aged so much that it's like you don't have a set of like 20 somethings like Friends or something like that back in the day. It's like The Golden Bachelor, or it's Night Court, bringing back the new thing, because those are the people that are actually watching network shows. Like, I cannot tell you the last time I actually watched a network TV show. And then when the network TV shows do come up on Netflix, I'm like,
Well, I don't always trust them because like they have to fill so many episodes.
Right. When it says 22 episodes, I'm like, you didn't need episode 18.
You did not need at least 3 of those episodes. You were just trying to fill them. And so that's why it's like, oh, I don't know. But yeah, everything is so fractured. So you're like, how do you even? And back to the original, like trying to fill this full circle all the way, like with Brad Pitt, we will find out, I think. I mean, I don't know what else is going to come out, though. Like, information has been out for a long time. It's just they were really good at hiding it. And unless they have to go have a trial, like the Johnny Depp situation, we may not ever really know the depths of what is going on with Brad Pitt.
It'll definitely be interesting to see how his reputation, if at all, is affected.
Right.
Producer Kelvin, where can people find you on social media?
At Kelvin Live, TikTok, Twitter, but mostly Instagram.
Holly?
Radio Holly on TikTok, X, Instagram, Threads, which I am usually getting into some kind of controversy on that damn website, and all that good stuff. Radio Holly.
And I'm at Miguel Fuller. You can see me on Be Real, TikTok, all those wonderful places. We'll see you back here on